Dolores, welcome to the Democratizing SEO podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. It's good to be here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time. I came across you on LinkedIn and I thought you'd be a very interesting person to speak with, especially because of your background, having worked agency side and now client side. I think this will be a very interesting conversation. The topic of today is I'm aiming to title it Agencies. Consider this when you send across SEO recommendations. And as we get into the topic, you'll see why. And I want to get your take on a number of things, especially now that you work as a client-side SEO. As I like to do with all my guests, I like to ask them how they got into SEO in the first place. So with that said, how did you venture into becoming an SEO professional?
So I started about 20 years ago by building websites. Back then it was very easy. You would build a website, you would submit your URL to Google and you would rank. But then it started becoming more and more complex and more interesting. And I realized that just having a website is not good enough. If no one can find a website, what's the point? And I started reading about SEO and got into that. And for the last 12 years, I spent a lot of time learning about SEO and always learning how to optimize sites. It's just my passion, really, especially technical side of SEO now.
Technical. Why technical?
Because there's so much you can do with technical. Like it's a backbone. You can have a great content. I start with technical and then go with content strategy as well. But with technical, you can do so much more than we usually do because of the restrictions that are applied. Usually we don't have enough developer resource, or we can't add tangible KPIs to optimizing technical SEO. That's why I always try to find solutions to those challenges.
Yeah, I find technical to be the most, it is I would say the foundation of SEO. Of course, if a site cannot be crawled, that's the first thing that matters, ensuring that the site can be crawled in the first place. But I find, as someone who's a consultant and who've worked agency as well as client side, I find that technical is the one area where you don't need to know anything else about the company or industry. You just need to know SEO, and it's the one area. So for example, with content or on page or off page, you kind of need to understand the business that you're in to a certain extent. If you're in retail, you pretty much need to know the retail business. If you're in fashion or travel, you need to know those businesses. Whereas with technical, you just need to know SEO, the technical side of SEO. So I find that it's more liberating, especially as a consultant, because you can do SEO for a Chinese speaker, a Chinese website. I've done SEO for an Arabic site before, but of course, technical SEO. And that's one of the things I love about the technical side of things. Now, you've worked both client side and agency side. I have to ask, I'm curious, which do you prefer and why?
That's difficult to say. I think both have good and bad sides. With agency, you get that team of experts around you. You get to work on multiple clients. So there's a wider knowledge you gain, wider insights. You can easier see how any Google algorithm update affects your client site. Well, when you're in-house, you usually work with one brand. When you are in-house, the good side is that you get a lot more context and you are seen as a part of the team. You are more integrated. So I work with teams across the business, not just one or two stakeholders, which is a challenge on its own, but you get all the messaging matrix, or all the marketing toolkits, everything that needs to be there for content, for example. And then you work with all developers on a daily basis because you are there and you can quickly go and chat to them. So I think I would say at the moment I prefer client side because I'm client side, but there are things I miss about the agency, especially having the team and wider industry insights.
Yeah, I find that is a big aspect with agency, as opposed to client side. That's ability to speak with, a fellow SEO who's working on a different client and just get their perspective on things from their point of view. It's
Yeah.
quite ideal, I find, as opposed to being client side. If I were to ask you, let's say on an average day, what does your day as a client side SEO look like?
So it depends, as everything with SEO depends, but mostly there's quite a few meetings, making sure that we are on track, readiness meeting, PI planning, supporting content. So a lot of it, I would say 80% is stakeholder management, and then 20% is probably hands-on at the moment. We are also hiring a team for the first time, in-housing the team, so some of my time goes on that as well, training the new members, settling them in, which is really great, right? Long term, it's going to help a lot. But it just depends. So, for example, this week I done quite a lot on strategy for the main campaigns we're going to have in the next 6 months, communicating that, putting business cases for bigger budget. We always struggle with budget in SEO.
Yeah.
Working closer with my PPC colleagues on cross-channel strategy, because I like that side as well. I guess with SEO you can be so creative and it's so broad that it never gets boring. But then again, next week, because we are a bit short at the moment, a few people are on holidays, and as I mentioned, we are replacing team and expanding team. I'll probably spend some time doing keyword research as well and some technical checks, which I really don't mind. I like being hands-on and learning. Trying a few more things with ChatGPT, of course, because that's what we use, trying how to be more efficient, not replacing people, but just how to be a bit more efficient.
So you mentioned stakeholder management. I assume these are non-SEO stakeholders. Would you say non-SEOs tend to be friendly towards SEOs or not, or is it a mixture?
So at Vodafone, because business has given a lot of importance to SEO and a lot of support, so people are friendly, people are supportive, but there's a big piece educating people how long it actually takes to do something. For example, keyword research for a campaign. It's not just 15 minutes. We have to go and do the things right. And people are perfectly fine when you tell them that, but you need to explain. I find people to be really friendly, and a lot of them actually have organic traffic as KPI now this year, so it works for everyone. It works. Yeah, because we have a lot of support from business, so we're not building team from scratch. There was always some SEO, but never enough. There's always 1 or 2 people, which is not enough. We have, for example, 40 squad lists just from developers, and you need to communicate with those because each squad manages different site areas. You need to communicate to all of them. So now we are building a team. It's great. It's exciting time in Vodafone for SEO. A lot of importance is given, obviously. That comes with a bit more pressure, but I like that. I like the challenge, and really looking forward to see where we're going to go by the end of the year. But stakeholder management is a big thing when you're client side.
Are these like senior business leaders or heads of departments, other departments, or is it more on an operational level?
Bit of both. So with senior stakeholders, I speak to them once or twice a month, presenting results, putting business cases forward and things like that, answering their questions, seeing what are the business priorities, how we can support them. And then on operational level, I talk to people on daily basis. So with content team, as we need to work with content team. It's like one team really. For us, with developers all the time, with our external partners, with brands, propositions, legal team. I guess people don't often realize that Vodafone, we are FCA regulated, so whatever change we want to make in wording, it has to be approved by legal team. So there is yeah, there is a lot going on, but I like it. I like talking to people and helping people understand SEO more and seeing the value we drive.
And it shows being regulated shows right there the importance of having a process in place, right? I remember I worked for a brand a while ago, and literally every single thing that was carried out from a content / SEO point of view had to go to compliance to be approved. And if it wasn't approved, it wasn't released. And there was literally compliance had the final say whether something happened or not. And you had to plan in the compliance consideration into, let's say, an SEO campaign, because the last thing you would want, of course, is to have a campaign ready to go live in a week and compliance shut the entire thing down, which had happened before. So we had to have a process in place where we had compliance brought in earlier, right? As opposed to having them being the almost like a bottleneck before the end. We had them brought in earlier, and we took them through each and every milestone. So they were aware and approved the different stages. And I find that SEO sometimes is treated the way, when I think back to it, it was almost a case of we were treating compliance the way non-SEOs treat SEOs, as in they bring SEO in right at the end and expect us to SEO stuff and release it. But yeah, it was almost the opposite, where we were treating them the way we were treated, almost as though we'd learned bad habits from other teams, of other departments. Do you find that having a process is vital for being a regulated being in a regulated industry?
Yeah, absolutely. So we communicate, everyone who's involved in project, we communicate, we have weekly meetings or bi-weekly readiness meetings, and every time there's a change, every time we have made a progress, we share with the stakeholders for approval. So as I said, then when we come to the end, when we have all the briefs ready, all the copy ready, there's no such thing, oh, hang on, you can't have this, because we already know that we can't have it from start. It's super important to have processes. We work in agile environment, so we have product owners, product managers, scrum masters, and everyone is completely involved. We follow that process, but we also have process for SEO then on top of that. So I introduced a few processes that helped, which I learned when I was agency side, like having proper SEO content brief, so we don't just create cards on product management board out of a blue. We actually have something to attach there, and it's much easier than to follow for everyone the template, or how to do keyword research process, how to optimize videos. It does help. And everyone is always involved in approval.
Oh yeah. I remember a while back, I also contracted for a brand who weren't very streamlined in their approach. Their process to SEO was very much, if you like, the typical way almost an SEO and agency side would imagine the way SEO is carried out client side. What I mean by this is the process is in place. Let's say for keyword research, people would do keyword research on the fly, literally on the fly. They would just go ahead and look into Keyword Planner, find something useful, and then use it on the website. No spreadsheet at all. No proper keyword research carried out. It was very much a case of they almost didn't consider the process for SEO because they were very much in marketing mode, right? Whereas agency side, you have to have a process because the deliverable a lot of the times is within the deliverable is a document itself, right? Whereas client side, the deliverable is, okay, what have you achieved from a marketing point of view? Have you increased traffic? Have you increased sales? Right? So it's a very much different ways of looking at things. I always like to say agency side, SEOs have to cater more about the sales aspect of SEO. Whereas client side, you have to focus more on the marketing side of SEO. But I find sometimes having the agency side elements brought into client side helps a lot. On the flip side, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's good. Not too many processes, but some of the basic processes need to be brought just to be more efficient, to have everything streamlined, and for new people to know, not to be overwhelmed, because when you join a big company, there's a lot going on. And if you have at least that bit of your job description aligned, then it's great. It saves time.
Yeah.
But processes are there also to be modified and edited. It can't be just me introducing a process that I know from before. It has to work for everyone. So I created, for example, SEO content template. I spoke to content team, said, what do you think about this? Is this going to help you? They had few tweaks. Great. We are finalized together. So you have to have input from all stakeholders who are going to use the process, and then edit along the way as well, because things change.
For SEOs who've only worked agency side, I want to sort of like paint a picture of what it's like when an SEO client side receives recommendations. So let's say you receive a tech audit from an agency. So the SEO agency side provided a tech audit, and that is their deliverable. So their part is pretty much completed. What is the next step from that point? Like, what do you do when you grab the ball and run with it, so to speak?
Yeah. So assuming that the recommendations have already been prioritized by agency and working with agency, you take that audit, and then you have to go and attribute some sort of a value to each recommendation, even if it's improving traffic or just optimizing site speed a little, whatever it is. There has to be some sort of value and KPI attached to it, otherwise it's not going to go through. And then you have to create the ticket on the board for each recommendation separately. Sometimes it's a greatest feature, sometimes it's epic full ticket. We use Azure DevOps board, which is really great, but it's process on process.
Yeah.
Once you create ticket, then you have to catch up with developers and product owners, product managers who are going to lead the project, see what's feasible, what's doable, how long it's going to take, how much it's going to cost. And then from there, you can start implementing, and it's usually implemented by 3-month cycle, which is called PI planning. So each PI is 3 months long. That's agile structure. So you have to have it ready for at least 6 months in advance to get into PI that's going to start in 6 months' time.
Yeah.
And then slowly during that process, you have to be involved and communicate with developers really frequently to make sure that SEO is still priority, because they get priorities from everyone in the business. You don't have to fight a bit for recommendations.
Yeah.
It's a long process, but you can get things implemented as long as you can show that there's going to be value from recommendations. I think that when I worked agency side, if I knew some of these things, how it works, I would probably do all this different, not sharing 50, 60 recommendations, but focusing on top 10 or top 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. I feel you on that. Having worked both client side, agency side, I find it very interesting the way the two different sides, if you like, think. It's quite interesting to me. An area that I want to explore in the coming months and also years. So 3 months cycle. What do you think of the whole rhetoric? And this is 3 months just to have something implemented, right? What do you think of the SEO rhetoric around it taking 6 months to show results?
I think it depends on the project. So, and depends how strong your brand is. So with a brand like Vodafone, that's well known and has strong authority on search, it shouldn't take 6 months. So I can tell you, for example, when we were doing Black Friday campaign, as soon as we put products on pages, actual products for Black Friday weekend, I could see our share of voice and ranking going massively up the next day, the following day.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes if we are trying to do a content that's slightly outside our area of authority, then it might take a bit longer. But 6 months is, I think, a bit too long to wait. Unless you are only just starting and you don't have enough backlinks, you don't have authority, you have very little content, then it might take 6 months.
Yeah, it depends on a number of things, right? Also where the brand is within their SEO journey. From a support point of view, when it comes to implementing SEO recommendations, now that you have client-side experience, what would you say to SEOs agency side that can help SEOs who are client-side with their implementation?
When you provide recommendations, be as detailed as possible. List every single step that you know of. Try to understand clients' technology behind, because in Vodafone we have quite peculiar tech stack. It's not your usual one. Fortunately, we are now migrating everything to Contentful, so it's going to be much better. But try to understand. Try to look manually at few pages, not just with tools. I think that's because we always struggle with time, whether you're agency side or client side, but more so agency side, you struggle with time, and sometimes you just don't have time to check everything, to double check, to sense check. I'd say always sense check. Even if you share 10 URLs instead of 100, just sense check them and make sure that the issue is actually there. Not sending, list of URLs when client goes and needs to implement those issues and then issue is not actually there, or that is something missing from the recommendations, something really important.
And what about from heads of departments? Is the collaboration very streamlined, or is it sometimes you have to battle for resources / time?
You have to battle. It's a bit of political, everyone wants more resource, everyone wants bigger budget, and there is a bit of a battle, but when it comes to SEO, people are quite supportive, really, because I have support from 3 main heads, so from brand, from digital, and from developers, so there's not much resistance. Sometimes I need to push deadlines back, which is fine by a few days, which is absolutely fine. If it's not the big campaign like new iPhone launch or something like that, we can push it back. But most of the time it's spot on deadlines, and people come to me if they have questions. They come well ahead in advance, ask a question. We finalize everything together, do tweaks if needed, and then it gets implemented. But yeah, there is a bit of a battle. It's political, right? It's a big organization, so politics do go around.
For brand, it sounds as though SEO is very much championed within the brand that you work for. For businesses that, well, let me rephrase that. Some businesses, they almost like view SEO as the new kid on the block, so to speak. So with SEO, it's within digital marketing, it's seen as the most obscure part of marketing, digital marketing. Social media is more, it's easier to grasp by business leaders than SEO. So sometimes for some brands, SEO seems to be giving the bare minimum in terms of time, resources, and budget as well. How is it a brand as such can switch things around where they are more supportive to SEOs?
It's about business education, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we need to educate the business the importance and the value of SEO. So I try to do that at least once a month, hold a webinar internally or training sessions and show the value of SEO. And then with senior stakeholders, I present the results once a month, and they're all on board. So I think it's a long game. Educating and showing the value, building business cases where you can. So this is where agency can actually help. If you have agency, they might be able to share some case studies, or you can find case studies on internet. There's plenty out there. Just show that, for example, I'm building a business case for ratings and reviews on the site because we have a few problems there with the technology. So just showing, there's plenty of stats out there why it's important, not just for SEO, but for conversion in general. And trying to tie that to the bottom line as much as possible. It's a forecast, right? No one expects it to be 100% right, but I show that it's going to bring more revenue, because if you show that it's going to bring more revenue, you're more likely to get resource and budget.
Yeah. The awareness part of SEO is an interesting area. I find that not enough agencies focus on the whole education of SEO, because I think that is a big area within the industry. Most of the education that I see are geared towards SEOs. So it's SEOs preaching to the choir, but there is a huge pool of non-SEOs that require SEO training, and not training to the point where they become an SEO themselves, but to the point where they understand SEO better. They improve their awareness of SEO. So also upskilling, if you like. Why do you think some agencies tend not to focus on this area? Because I training and workshops, because I think it's a gold mine.
I'm not sure, but when I was agency side, it was a difficult thing to sell. It's much easier to sell, for example, content strategy, because the KPIs are a lot more tangible. You can prove the results a lot sooner. Well, with education is a bit vague with KPIs, so it was always finding the right ones. But we did some training, and we always provided best practices and webinars. I guess for me, the main part is after education that the teams need to have organic traffic as KPI. That's the only way people are going to care about SEO, because if they have their own KPIs and that does not include SEO KPIs, then why would they care? I mean, they have their own goals to achieve.
Yeah.
I think that's something that we've done in Vodafone really well. Introduced KPIs. So everyone wants organic traffic as KPIs because they see, massive ROI from SEO.
Does that then create new problems where there is almost like a new battle of who gets the credit for SEO results? Is it SEOs or is it the individual departments?
So SEOs do get most of the credits because we are accountable, whether it's, for all results, positive and negative. But teams that help us achieve the result should get credits as well. So, for example, product managers from developer teams, if they want to introduce largest content tool Paint, for example, this year. So I'm going to help them define those. We're going to work towards optimizing the largest content tool Paint together, and then share the credits in there. I think credits should be shared across the teams, because as SEOs, we cannot implement anything ourselves. We always rely either on developers or content team to implement things.
Yeah, it sounds as though SEO is well regarded where you are, which is a dream. Because imagine a world of reality where individuals, teams, departments have the appropriate awareness of SEO for what they do. So developers understand tech SEO, content or copywriters understand it from a content / on-page point of view, and the same with all the different departments that have an ability to impact SEO performance. What does this world, this reality look like to you? Or are you living this reality?
Not quite. There's still a lot to do. But I guess that's because I have support from senior managers. It's much easier. They might not fully understand SEO, but they trust me and they trust the SEO team to do the things right.
Yeah.
And when you show results after, first 3 to 6 months were a bit more difficult, but then we show the results and it's much easier now. And all the education we do, I'm not the only one doing education. I want the whole team to do education. Everyone is leading their own area of the site. So, because there's massive, we have, for example, pay monthly, home broadband, which those two teams don't actually have touch points together. So we sit between them and work with them, making sure that everyone is aware of SEO and that SEO is always considered. We still have occasions when SEO is not considered, especially with migrations, but that's becoming a rare occasion these days. It's a battle, and I like a challenge. I knew what I'm getting myself into. Corporate SEO. It's difficult, but we are making progress. That's what I want to see. It's not going to be perfect. It's never. No site is perfect. You know that you've been in the industry for a long time as well. As long as we are making progress and driving results, I'm happy.
For brands who are not quite proactive with their SEO, they business leaders within such brands tends to only appreciate SEO after there is an issue. i.e. traffic has dropped significantly. And this is due to usually, let's say, an algorithm update, which has affected the site. And it's a case of the site was pretty much carrying out workarounds when it came to SEO. And I find that a big area that brands have to tackle is their technical side of SEO, specifically their CMS. A lot of brands are going through a migration process. I find that the CMS that they use are very outdated. It's very outdated, and it doesn't allow for the most up-to-date or best practices SEO implementation. So it's a case of the brand have to rely on workarounds. And unfortunately, that only gets the brands to a certain point. And if an algorithm were to be released and it affects the brand, it really impacts their visibility and traffic and ultimately revenue. What can these brands do to be more proactive in their SEO as opposed to waiting for their sites to be negatively impacted before they take SEO seriously?
They need to have SEO champion, someone who's going to champion SEO internally, someone who's going to show the benefits, but also the risks with CMS and with server setup, and everything that affects SEO, because no matter what we do on a site is going to affect SEO, positive or negative, but there's going to be impact.
Yeah.
So someone needs to champion SEO internally. It doesn't have to be SEO manager. Some brands don't have their SEO teams, but someone internally, maybe an marketing manager or digital marketing manager, or even developers, can champion SEO. It's important to show the risks of the current technology and CMS brands have. So we are migrating to Contentful, but we still have 2 old CMSs that I never used before. So, and it's very outdated. Like, for example, with one of the CMSs, you have to update meta title and meta description 6 times for each page.
Wow.
Don't ask me why it's 6 times. I don't want to know, because we are migrating. So fortunately, I don't have to do that. But yeah, it's very, very old, like probably 20 years old CMS. But that's the thing, because when a company is big and you have so many people working on technology, it's very difficult to move to a new technology, because it takes a lot of education, a lot of time to sync everything. Even though everyone is willing and everyone is so eager to move to Contentful, there's so much of these legacy systems that possibly no one who is working for a company now was there when it was set up. So there's a thorough testing constantly going on to make sure that we don't miss something.
So this leads me to another question that I thought of, which is the balance of keeping up to date with SEO best practices and putting the business first rather than SEO first. So what I mean by that is, you know, within the SEO, there's this understanding that the SEO, the latest news within the SEO industry is important, but also the business, the latest news within one's business is also important. How do you prioritize that? Is it SEO over business related news, or is the business first and SEO related news falls within the business?
I believe it should always be business first, because SEO needs to support business, business goals. But if it's something super important, say Google releases Core Web Vitals algorithm, then that has to be important. That has to be known, and we have to focus on that. But yeah, usually I would say business.
Business first.
Yeah, the business encompasses everything, all other channels, all the propositions, it's a lot more insights and a lot more priority, and how should I say, like KPIs on business as well. I think it's a lot more important than looking at SEO in isolation.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting balance, because when I ask SEOs who are agency side, they tend to focus more on SEO industry as opposed to their client's business. And in a sense, I kind of understand that, because it's a very different way of looking at SEO. But being client side, you pretty much have to put the business first. Otherwise, it's a case of you could be creating SEO best practices just for the sake of SEO, as opposed to doing something that will really help the business. So it's a fascinating balance, and it really depends on the business, of course. But I think, yes, business over SEO, definitely. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead first. Yeah.
Having worked client side now, what would you say is the biggest realization as an SEO who's now client side?
The pace of implementation, client side, I would say, because when you're agency side, you do everything yesterday. Everything needs to be done yesterday. Like, emails, you have to reply to emails within an hour. You have to do this, you have to do that. And because you are there, you're doing SEO and you are within SEO department. But when you go client side, you are exposed to a lot more. And then the pace is slower because there's a lot more that needs to be done. So many stakeholders involved that need to give approval. I think that's the biggest realization. How, if I was agency side again, I would probably focus on, instead 5 to 10 recommendations, get those implemented, opposed to creating a massive backlog of 100 recommendations that are never going to go through, because unfortunately, when clients just don't have enough time for it.
Yeah. What would you say to SEOs who are agency side, as a, if you like, final tip to SEOs who are agency side? What should they know about SEOs who are client side?
There's a lot of politics going on as well, so be patient and be patient and try to provide business case for as many recommendations as you can. Try to add value and KPIs, even if it's focused on how much more visits or how much more clicks you can get by implementing recommendations. And be patient. Definitely, it's a long process.
Yeah, I find that the bigger the company, the bigger the brand, the more the brand is seen as sort of like small brands, they are on a jet ski, whereas bigger brands, they are a ship, and they can go a lot further. But to make changes to turn, let's say, they have to turn a lot quicker. It takes them a lot longer to make a turn, to make a change. And I think that is very apt for big brands.
It is, yeah, definitely. And hopefully it's going to change in the near future, because I think especially now with the rise of AI, we need to be able to respond to changes a lot quicker.
What is your take on AI? How are you seeing it?
I see it as something that's going to help improve efficiencies. It's not going to replace copywriters or SEOs. I think we are a long way from there. We still need human input, but it definitely helps with automation and improving efficiencies. So I use it sometimes when I'm short on time. I use it for quick keyword research, just to give me basic starting points, opposed to going to SEMrush and downloading 100,000 keywords. Sometimes just to write a summary for content brief, see what competitors are ranking for quickly. It has its uses. It has some really good prompts, but it's definitely not going to replace humans. It doesn't have the same sentiment. It doesn't have that empathy, the level of empathy you need. It can mimic personas, but it's not a persona. It's there to help us, really.
Yeah, it's my interest in AI is seeing how it will affect the average user, i.e. searcher, because I think people's idea of how to use search is going to improve to the point, like, so an example, as I'm sure you know, 15, 20 years ago, SEOs knew how to search, but the general public didn't necessarily know how to utilize search. Now everyone knows how to search for something, right? But we're now at a point where I think everyone's going to become very much aware of the prompts to use to find what they are seeking. And I'm interested to see how this affects the way Google does business, because I think the expectations when people search will change. I was using Bard, just testing it out last week, and it's slightly different to ChatGPT's AI in that it's not necessarily, it's looking into, whereas ChatGPT looks into existing data and provides you the information that it finds online. Bard sort of like assumes what you're seeking, so it works slightly differently. So the name being a ridiculous name, in my opinion, it's quite interesting to see how it will affect the way people search. Now, it's still a long way to be rolled out, but yeah, the user behavior of search, I think, will be a very interesting way impact on SEO in the next 1 to 3 years, I think. And of course, it will also affect what people use to search. By that, I mean, are they going to stick with Google, or will they use the platform that they are on, i.e. TikTok, Bing, and other search engines?
Yeah, that is definitely interesting. I think Bing is gonna get more market share because they have ChatGPT and they started first, so users are already going a bit more to Bing than they used to. Yeah, but it will be interesting, especially the topic around TikTok, because we are all seeing now that being the second largest search platform. So it's gonna be interesting, to see where we end up.
Do you think SEOs will end up having to be specialists across other platforms other than Google?
Yes, definitely.
That's going to be fun.
At the moment we optimize for Google, don't we? And then all other platforms usually follow. Yeah, but it's going to be, I'm going to actually test optimization for Bing, just few things, on few pages, see how it works. Because I believe they're going to get more market share now.
Yeah, I completely see Google losing some of their market share. I think they will still be on top, but I'm not sure how much Bing and TikTok, specifically those two, I'm not sure how much market share they'll get. But it'll be very fascinating to see how how things shape out in the years to come. TikTok particularly is interesting to me because they're pushing for people to search on the platform. So if most people, especially the younger generation, if they're sticking with the platform, perhaps they will carry out everything on the platform, i.e. specifically their search on the platform. And if that is the case, their expectation, if they do use a different platform like Google, will also change, because TikTok, of course, the content you receive is all videos, right? Is this a case of video will now be the most dominant media type or medium type when people search, as in they expect a video to answer as an answer for what they search?
Probably. Because it's going that way, isn't it? So
Yeah.
it's going to be interesting to see how we optimize for TikTok, because usually optimization for social media was quite basic in the past. So let's see what we can do with TikTok.
Yeah.
TikTok, YouTube. We actually have the project of optimizing YouTube videos for June this year, so might be able to share something after that, see how it goes.
Yeah, fun times ahead.
Yeah.
We're still rapidly going through the months of this year. Still in the second quarter though, of the year. What would you say you're looking forward to for the rest of the year?
That the year has gone so quick.
It has, right?
4 months. I can't believe it in May here, but I'm definitely looking forward to see where AI goes. And I honestly hope we're going to optimize for more search engines, not just Google, because when you've been optimizing for Google as long as we did, you are interested in more. You want to do with more. So I wanted to SEO to sort of evolve, because if you think about it, we still optimize for keywords as we did 10, 15 years ago. Maybe we evolved the processes, but it's still fundamentally based on the primary and secondary keywords. So it would be nice to see if we can somehow shape that further. So based on the content type, you can have different approach, for example. So for videos, it's still going to be keywords, but maybe we can use it in different way, not just optimizing primary and secondary keywords. It would be nice change. So looking forward to see where we are going to go with AI, with other search engines, what content types are going to be dominant on SERPs. We've seen recently with videos some changes on SERPs since the last Google update. It seems like it's evolving rapidly and it's exciting.
Yeah, it's becoming more complex, even more complex, I should say. We're not going to be short on work in the years to come.
No. I mean, how many times you've seen those clickbait titles, SEO is dead, in the last 10, 15 years? Yeah. And even now, people, AI is going to replace SEOs. I've been in Brighton SEO 10 days ago or something like that. Yeah, there were most talks mentioned generative AI, and people freaking out how it's going to replace us. I don't think it's going to replace us. I think if you know how to use it, we're going to be okay. If you don't know how to use the tool, then you might be replaced in the next 3-4 years, but not if you know how to use it. It's exciting times for SEO, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's finally getting attention it deserves.
Yes. Yeah. I think I see a world where people think or use or are aware of SEO the way they are aware of social media. That's the future I envision.
Yeah. Hopefully it's going to be like that. Yeah.
Dolores, thank you. So go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wanted to say I love social media as well, and it would be good to see if we can somehow work more closely with social media teams, because we usually work with paid search, right? That's our main counterpart. But maybe we can find a way to work with social media as well, and then educate everyone on SEO more.
Oh yeah. It'll be, I think it will happen. I think it will happen by branding, because I have a suspicion that people will be searching more for brands, in the coming years. Because if you think about the way people search on social media, if you consider a search element a part of social media, right, they tend to focus mainly on brands on social media. And if people are now very much aware of AI tools and prompts, I think the focus will be on brand related searches rather than generic searches. I don't have any data to back this up. It's just a suspicion I have.
Yeah, I think it's a good suspicion. I mean, if I go on social media, I don't go as often as I probably should to learn it, but if I go on social media, I will search for brands. I'm not going to search for
Yeah.
hashtag, I don't know, beauty products. I don't go to social media for that. It's definitely brands, especially on YouTube and TikTok.
Yeah. Dolores, thank you so much for your time today. Where can people find you online?
So people can find me on LinkedIn. I think I'm mainly on LinkedIn. When it comes to social media. And I'm developing my own website, but it's going to be more of a blog than offering services. So I might share a link in the next 6 to 9 months when I have some content to share.
Yeah, please do. I'll have your LinkedIn in the description. Once you have your site up and running, just message me, and I'll be happy to add the link to your site to the description as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your time. Yeah. Yes, likewise. Have a brilliant day, and we'll catch up again another time.
Yes, thank you. Speak soon.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers.